I saved all year for Christmas gifts. When I handed them out, my sister said loudly, "Cheap, as expected." My mom laughed. I just smiled, picked up the receipt pile, and left. An hour later, my brother texted, "Don't be sensitive." I reversed the $5,200 tuition payment that same night. At 11:03 p.m., the group chat lit up, but one message made me freeze. I worked hard all year for them. I don't think they'll ever understand that. Every long shift, every missed weekend, every extra hour I picked up was for them. Not because they asked, they never ask, but because I wanted to finally be someone they could be proud of. The one who wasn't always borrowing, apologizing, getting pitted at the table when gifts were exchanged and I showed up empty-handed or with some lame mug from the clearance aisle. This year was supposed to change that. I finally landed a real gig in March, remote, long hours, but decent pay. I stopped going out, cooked all my meals at home, drove my car on fumes instead of replacing it. I told myself it'd all be worth it. That this year, I'd walk into the house on Christmas Day and blow them away. I pictured their faces when they unwrapped the gifts. Thought maybe they'd say, "Wow, Hubert really pulled through this year." Thought maybe, just maybe, I'd stop being the family joke. So I planned. 4 months. Got Dad the whiskey he always lingered over but never bought. Imported from Japan, not cheap, not easy to find. Got Mom a handmade leather bag that looked just like the one she kept saving on Facebook Marketplace. For my brother, a new smartwatch, a solid one, not a knockoff. And for my sister, I went all out, high-end makeup from a brand she wouldn't shut up about, and a salon gift card she could actually use. I even paid off $5,200 of my brother's college tuition the week before. Quietly. No announcement. I just did it because I could. And because I thought it would mean something. I wrapped everything carefully, no cheap paper, no corners cut. I even attached gift receipts, just in case. I didn't expect applause. I just wanted to feel like I mattered in that house for once. Christmas morning, I walked into the same living room I'd known all my life. Tree up, carols playing, my sister live streaming her life as usual. No one looked up when I came in. I set the gifts down, smiled, waited. Dad opened his bottle and gave it a glance before setting it aside. No reaction. Mom held the bag in her hands for maybe 2 seconds before putting it back in the box. My brother said, "Oh," when he saw the watch. Just oh. Then, "This one's not the newest model." And then came my sister. She ripped the wrapping off, held up the makeup box like it was something sticky, and said, loud enough to stop conversation, "Cheap. As expected." And that's when my mom laughed. Not a little giggle. A full laugh like someone had just told the best joke in the world. My brother snorted. Even Dad smiled. I didn't say a word. Not about the gifts. Not about the tuition. Not even about the fact that no one, not one of them, had a single thing wrapped for me. I didn't ask for anything. I didn't expect much. But I hadn't expected this. I just smiled, picked up the neat little pile of receipts I'd set on the counter earlier, just in case they wanted to exchange sizes or colors, and walked out. No one stopped me. An hour later, I was parked in a grocery store lot, staring at people walking by like they belonged to a better planet. My phone buzzed. My brother. "Don't be sensitive." I opened my banking app. Found the tuition transfer. Clicked. Reverse. The money was back in my account before I even had time to second-guess it. At 11:03 p.m., the group chat exploded. Dozens of messages flooding in. I didn't read most of them. I was about to mute the whole thing when one message lit up the screen and made my chest go tight. It was from my mom. "This is why Hubert will always be a loser." I sat there in the dark for a long time. My breath felt heavier than usual. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even get angry. I just understood something I hadn't before. That it didn't matter how hard I tried. That they didn't want me to succeed, not really. They liked having someone to mock. Someone to be above. And I just ruined that narrative by trying to be part of them. So I turned off my phone. And decided next year would be different. Much different. I didn't say a word after Christmas. Not one. No dramatic goodbye, no speech about how they'd hurt me. I just disappeared from the chat, blocked a few numbers, and let it all rot where it stood. There wasn't a single apology, not even a weak. Maybe we were harsh. Just silence, followed by the usual shift in tone, as if ignoring the whole thing would magically reset everything. By New Year's Eve, I'd nearly forgotten about them. I was home alone, sitting on the floor with a plate of microwaved pasta, flipping between Netflix and a news stream showing celebrations from around the world. No champagne. No party. But it was peaceful. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't bracing for some sarcastic remark, some passive-aggressive jab. Then, 11:38 p.m., I remember because I had just checked the time, debating if I should stay up for midnight or just sleep. That's when the phone started buzzing. First it was a missed call from my mom. Then 2 texts from my brother. Then my sister. Then the group chat started to light up. It was strange. Too many messages too fast. Call 911. Fire! The backyard is on fire. It's spreading, Hubert. Where are you? Please. I unlocked the phone and opened the group chat. The messages were coming in like machine gun fire. One after another. Caps lock. Typos. Full panic mode. Then someone dropped a video. It was dark, shaky, clearly filmed in a rush. You could hear people shouting in the background, the camera pointing toward their backyard, which was fully lit with fire. Bright, roaring, out of control. A pile of what looked like fireworks boxes had ignited next to a stack of cardboard and something else, maybe propane. The flames were licking up the back wall of the house, reaching the windows. It was seconds from going full inferno. And then came one message, right at 11:47 p.m. From my mom. Hubert, we need you. Please. I sat there with the phone in my hand, perfectly still. Not out of shock. Not fear. Just clarity. I wasn't there when they set up the fireworks. But I could imagine it perfectly. My dad trying to show off, my brother trying to take over, my mom yelling about someone lighting the fuse wrong. All of them high on the sound of their own voices. None of them thinking. And now the whole thing had literally blown up in their faces. For a second, I considered it. Picking up the keys, driving over? Calling the fire department, even anonymously. But then I thought about Christmas. I thought about my sister's voice. Cheap, as expected. I thought about my mom's laughter. I thought about the $5,200 I had to manually claw back out of my brother's tuition payment. And I thought about the text that really broke it all. This is why Hubert will always be a loser. I didn't move. I didn't respond. The phone buzzed again. 20, 30 more messages. I locked the screen and tossed it on the couch. Let someone else be the hero. I fell asleep around 1 a.m. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight and a kind of stillness you only get after a storm. I checked the local news. Small residential fire, no fatalities. Minor injuries, house temporarily uninhabitable. They were lucky. The fire had spread fast but didn't get to the bedrooms. They'd been outside when it started, apparently recording a New Year's fireworks show for Instagram. I turned off the article and made coffee. That should have been the end of it. 3 days later, it was January 3rd. I had just come back from the grocery store and was halfway through putting stuff away when the doorbell rang. No one ever rang my doorbell. Ever. I opened it. And there they were. My mom, my dad, my brother, my sister. Standing on my porch like they hadn't burned every bridge between us a week earlier. My mom held a casserole dish like it was some kind of offering. My sister had 2 garbage bags at her feet. My brother gave me a half smile, the kind that said, "Let's pretend none of that happened." I didn't say anything. I didn't move. My mom spoke first. Just 2 words. "We're staying." And just like that, they pushed past me and walked inside. I didn't stop them. But I should have. They walked in like it was still 2009 and I was the quiet one with the hand-me-down twin bed in the corner room. Like nothing had changed. Like the words they'd thrown around days earlier hadn't happened. My mom set the casserole down like she was blessing the kitchen. My dad nodded at the couch, sat without asking. My sister disappeared into the hallway like she already knew which room she wanted. My brother went straight to the fridge and started moving things around to make space. He had brought a grocery bag of his own, full of energy drinks and microwavable sliders. I stood there, keys still in my hand. I didn't even know what to say. Part of me thought they'd say something first. Anything. An apology. A thank you? Even a half-hearted excuse like, "We didn't mean it like that." But nothing came. They just started, existing. In my space. My apartment. I hadn't said a word when they barged in, and that silence seemed like permission to them. The first night, they ordered pizza and used my streaming account like they'd always had access to it. My mom said something like, "It's just for a few weeks while the insurance works everything out." I didn't respond. My sister had the nerve to tell me she couldn't sleep on the couch because her back was still recovering from that brutal night in the cold. So she took my bed. I started sleeping on the floor in my home office. The second day, my mom asked me to pick up more eggs because we go through them fast. My dad asked for access to the Wi-Fi. My brother plugged in his gaming console and started shouting in the living room during online matches. My sister complained that my apartment smelled like someone who eats alone. And I said nothing. Not because I was weak, but because I was watching. I wanted to see just how far they would go with no resistance. Turns out, the answer was, all the way. By the end of the first week, they had taken over every room except the office. My sister moved all my bathroom stuff into a drawer so she could make it look cuter. My mom started doing laundry with no regard for sorting colors. My dad complained about the heating. My brother asked if I could cover their DoorDash order one night because we're kind of low until mom's reimbursement comes in. They'd completely forgotten what they had said. Or they never cared in the first place. On day 12, I got home from work and found my desk chair missing. My sister had taken it because her back needed more support while doing makeup. I stood there for 5 minutes, staring at my now empty desk. I didn't even ask for it back. I went to Goodwill the next morning and bought a $15 folding chair. And still, not one of them brought up Christmas. Not one mentioned the fire. Not one said, "Thank you." Instead, on day 18, my mom walked into the office while I was working and said, "We've been thinking, when the insurance clears, maybe we should look for something smaller. Save money. Unless, well, this setup is working out, right?" That was the first time I laughed in weeks. They didn't know it yet, but they were leaving. By the third week, I wasn't even pretending anymore. I'd wake up on the floor of my office, the only room in the apartment that still felt like mine, and just lie there, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember what it felt like to live alone. Peacefully. With control over my space. Before they arrived with their garbage bags, entitlement, and zero shame. They'd fully taken over. My sister had turned my bedroom into her personal salon. Blow dryers, straighteners, boxes of skincare junk scattered across my nightstand. My mom had rearranged the kitchen, thrown out food she didn't recognize, and started cooking dinners like it was her house. My dad rarely spoke to me directly, but every night I'd find him passed out on my couch watching TV with the volume too high. And my brother? He played online games in the living room all night with his headset on, yelling at strangers, eating my food, leaving wrappers under the coffee table. The apartment smelled different. It sounded different. It didn't feel like home anymore. And what made it worse was how normal they acted. Like nothing had ever happened. Like they hadn't humiliated me just weeks earlier. No one mentioned Christmas. No one brought up the fire. No one apologized for anything, not the laughter, the insults, or the fact that they'd never given me a single gift, not even a damn card. They moved through my apartment like they'd been living there forever, and I was the one renting a room. But I didn't snap. Instead, I started preparing. I calculated the extra groceries, the spike in my electric bill, the water, the internet. I checked the lease and made sure everything was in my name, and only my name. I created a spreadsheet, not out of pettiness, but because if they wanted to pretend like nothing had happened, I'd remind them with numbers. And then I printed a letter. Not an email. Not a group chat message. A letter taped to the fridge, where every one of them would see it the next morning. Move out notice. Effective immediately. This is not a request. This is not a conversation. You have 5 days to make other arrangements. I've covered temporary housing for 3.5 weeks. Food. Utilities. Wi-Fi. Transportation for groceries. Personal space. You've contributed nothing. You've offered nothing. You've disrespected my home and ignored the harm done over Christmas. There is no discussion to be had. You will find an envelope in the kitchen drawer marked Rent Start. Inside is $2,000 in cash, first month's rent plus deposit plus 1 week of food, based on average costs. I am not your landlord. I am not your bank. I am your brother and your son, and you chose to burn that bridge. You have until Friday at noon. After that, you will be removed from the premises by legal means if necessary. This is final. Hubert. I left before any of them woke up and turned my phone off for the day. I didn't want the arguments. I didn't want the guilt trips. I knew how it would go. My mom would act hurt, my brother would say I was being emotional, my sister would call me selfish. They would twist it all into a story where I was the villain again. I didn't care. That night, when I came home, the apartment was dead quiet. No TV, no shouting, no smells from the kitchen. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table, envelope open in front of her. She didn't say a word. My sister was curled up on the couch scrolling through her phone like she wasn't sitting in a place she no longer had any right to be. My brother didn't even look at me. Just put his headset on and stared at his game. They stayed silent. I told them once. 5 days. No explanations. No debate. Each of those 5 days dragged. I barely spoke. They barely looked at me. The dynamic had changed. For the first time in forever, they seemed unsure. Not angry. Just aware. Like they finally realized I wasn't the weak link in the chain anymore. On the 5th day, I came home and the place was empty. The bedroom was cleared. The couch cushions were still crooked, and someone had left a half-eaten sandwich on the counter. But they were gone. No goodbyes. No thank you. No apologies. Just silence and the faint smell of burned microwave popcorn. It took me a few hours to start cleaning. I found one of my sweaters balled up under the coffee table. A chipped mug in the bathroom sink. But otherwise it was over. And the funny thing? The apartment didn't feel peaceful yet. It felt hollow. Like something had ended, not just a visit, but something deeper. Something I could never fix again, even if I wanted to. And I didn't. That part of me was gone. It took me exactly 3 months to stop flinching every time someone knocked on my door. That's how long it had been since they left. Since my apartment stopped being a squat house for 4 ungrateful adults who rolled in like a storm and left just as messy. Since I taped the notice to the fridge, gave them cash, and told them to get out. I counted every day. You'd think once they left, things would go back to normal. And in a way, they did, on the surface. The apartment was clean again. I could hear myself think. I was eating my own food without finding empty wrappers shoved behind the couch. I reclaimed my bed, my desk, my bathroom. But something in me hadn't settled. They had taken something I didn't realize was fragile. The part of me that still believed family, even at their worst, would eventually show up with decency. With acknowledgement. With some scrap of humility. But no. No apology ever came. Not from my mom, who laughed at me like I was a clown on Christmas. Not from my sister, who said cheap, with the kind of venom you don't forget. Not from my brother, who called me sensitive after I quietly paid his tuition. Not even from my dad, who watched it all from the sidelines like he wasn't part of the circus. After they left, I didn't hear a word. No thank you for the $2,000. No message to say they'd found a place. Nothing. But I heard about them. Through second-hand posts, tagged photos, the occasional friend who still followed them on social. They were back to their routine, barbecues, family brunches, group selfies. Same smiles. Same fake show. My sister even posted something about new beginnings in our cozy little place. Of course, there was no mention of how they got that place. No one said, "Thanks to Hubert, we're not on the street." They just acted like they'd gotten there themselves. Like the fire, the mooching, the mockery, none of it happened. And I stayed silent. Not because I was weak. Because I wanted it over. I didn't need a war. I needed peace. I needed to close the door and rebuild what was mine, my space, my pride, my dignity. Then one Sunday afternoon it happened. I just finished vacuuming and was sorting through a pile of mail. Most of it was junk. One envelope stood out, white, thick, handwritten. My name in blue ink. No return address. I knew the handwriting. Slanted, dramatic, like she always did when she wanted attention. My sister. Inside, one sheet of paper. No greeting, no date, just her voice poured onto the page like she was doing me a favor. You didn't have to throw us out like trash. That's what everyone remembers now. Not the fire. Not Christmas. Just that you made your own family homeless. Yeah, maybe we messed up. But we're blood. And you chose to cut us off. You made your point. But people don't forget that. We're fine now. Better, actually. New place. Things are calmer. Even Mom's talking again. But she says if something happens to Dad before you two make up, that's on you. Anyway. Just letting you know where things stand. No need to reply. At the bottom, she taped a return address sticker, a low-end apartment complex across town. That was it. No name, no love, no accountability. Just a thinly veiled guilt trip dressed as an olive branch. I folded the letter and put it in the drawer with expired coupons and unopened election flyers. It didn't make me angry, just tired. Tired of how easily they shifted blame. Of how smoothly they told the story in their favor. I could see it now, them sitting around, nodding in agreement about how cold I'd been. How? He changed after he got money. Never once saying, we were cruel to someone who tried to help. I didn't respond. Didn't text. Didn't write back. But the silence didn't last. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I picked up. It was my dad. He didn't say hello. Just said, we're going to need to talk soon. And then hung up. No context. No explanation. Just that. And I couldn't tell if it was a warning or a threat. After my dad called, I expected something to happen. A follow-up text. A message from my mom. Maybe my brother trying to be the reasonable one, again, telling me not to be dramatic or some recycled line about family being family. But there was nothing. Just that one sentence hanging in the air like a loose thread. We're going to need to talk soon. It stayed with me. Not because I was afraid of what he might say, honestly, I doubted he had anything real to offer. But because it sounded like an order. Like I owed them one last performance. So I waited. A few days passed. I didn't reach out. I didn't check the group chat, even though I saw the notifications stacking up on my lock screen. I muted the conversation again without opening it. If it was serious, someone would call. And even then, I wasn't sure I'd answer. Then on a Thursday afternoon, while I was waiting for laundry to finish, the silence cracked. I opened my phone to check the weather and saw it, a preview from the group chat. A photo. I tapped it, against my better judgment. It was my dad. In a hospital bed. No hospital name visible, but you could tell. Gown. 4-line. Wires taped to his chest. He didn't look great, but he didn't look critical either. My mom was beside him in the frame, smiling tight. Like she was trying to sell the idea of concern. Then a second message followed. From her. Hubert, you better not ignore this. No details. No explanation. Just that. No one else chimed in. My brother didn't send anything. My sister, radio silence. It was as if they'd nominated my mom to be the one to bring me back into the fold. Except it wasn't an invitation. It was a demand. And just like that, the decision I'd been circling for months became simple. I tapped into the chat settings. Scrolled to the bottom. Leave group. Are you sure? Yes. And just like that, I was out. No one messaged me afterward. No calls. No dramatic fallout. I expected anger, or guilt trips, or even just a fake act of concern to lure me back in. But they didn't bother. And that told me everything I needed to know. They didn't care that I was gone. They cared that I had the audacity to remove myself on my terms. They wanted me to come crawling back, like I always had. To show up at the hospital with flowers or a card, asking if we could talk. They needed that version of me, the one who apologized for things he didn't do, who paid for problems he didn't create. But that version of me was dead. He died the night I reversed the tuition payment, and read the message that called me a loser. They just hadn't buried him yet. I didn't post anything. Didn't send a dramatic final message or write some long letter about how they'd hurt me. That's not how you cut people off, not really. You just stop giving them access. I kept working. Took longer walks. Started sleeping better. A few weeks later, a mutual cousin reached out to catch up. I didn't bite. I saw the pattern. Someone was probing, trying to gauge how soft I'd become since the hospital photo. I kept the conversation light, gave them nothing, and ended the call quickly. Whatever was happening with my dad, they'd figure it out. They always do when it matters to them. But I wasn't going to be their backup plan anymore. Not their free couch. Not their fixer. Not the punching bag they call when they're bored of each other. And the weirdest part? It didn't feel like loss. It felt like something I should have done years ago. A quiet closing of a door they'd left wide open for too long, not so I could walk back in, but so they could walk all over me. Now it was locked. From my side. And for the first time in my entire life, the silence after goodbye felt like peace.